Rabbi Manis Friedman, thank God it's Tuesday. Oh my goodness. Everything is coming out. Everything is oozing out. I think everywhere we look, people are actually becoming more and more awake. It seems like everybody is aware of what's going on out there. They're a little scared of it, a little skeptical still, but pretty much cannot deny the truth anymore. So, huge awakening, eyes wide open, corruption everywhere. We see, unfortunately, at this point, we only see that evil side of things, the corruption everywhere, politics, medicine, media, big pharma, big business, big tech. Unfortunately, a lot of sexual troubles, a lot of bad stuff is happening. Eyes wide open. But the big question is, what now? What is happening?
Did you say awake or awoke?
I think both. I think it's just getting crazy. It's just getting crazier by the second, and every day it's scary how much stuff is coming out and how conspiracy theories are no longer conspiracy theories, and it's just scary.
Yes, it is definitely. If we didn't know what the end game is, we would be very frightened, because it does look very scary. And the scary thing is, once we realize all the corruption and all the things that are wrong, what are we going to replace it with? That's really the scary part. Eventually we will recognize all the bad, nasty things because they don't work. But then what? Where are we going to turn? Where is the world going to look for a solution? More politics? More money? More bureaucracy? So we have to hope for a whole new form of leadership, because you can't function without leadership. Anarchy is certainly not an option, but we have learned to mistrust leaders, to distrust. So there has to be a leader, but it has to be a completely different kind of leadership that we can trust. And that's what we mean by Mashiach. A leader, very different, very promising, very trustworthy, that everybody can get behind. The world has never been so ready.
Rabbi Friedman, you said that when we're going to see the bad in one of our previous conversations, and the bad is going to be awful, and it's really so awful that I don't think our mind can fully even comprehend the awfulness of everything that is, I'm afraid, is going to be revealed even more than it has been revealed already. However, we're supposed to see the good, and that seems to be quite hidden still.
The good is a grassroots good. We're not seeing any great leaders. We're not seeing any great radically new ideas of goodness, of wisdom. The grassroots is getting better. It's true. And just wanting something better makes you a better person. But we still need that leadership. And that's what we were promised. Way before we realized how much we're going to need it, it was already promised. And we've been looking forward for a long time.
Rabbi Friedman, it seems so close. I mean, especially judging by spiritual ladies. They're all in such a state of being right now when it's becoming really almost unbearable to continue seeing everything that we're seeing and not have any, leadership, as you're saying, not seeing Mashiach yet, and just waiting. But then there's a really, really scary aspect that I came across very recently, and that is according to Ramban, who in the 13th century during the Crusades was saying that, Mashiach is here, and, and this was, so many hundreds years ago, and he was wrong, and he was one of the big ones, and, so how do we know that we are not wrong anymore, that Mashiach is actually coming and that he is very, very near? I mean, the scariest thought is we know what the end result is, but how far away is that end result? And can we actually handle waiting for that end result amongst what we're seeing right now in the world?
Well, Mashiach is a process. And the process began 2,000 years ago with the destruction of the temple. There were highlights. There were giant steps in the process that were very exciting, which people called Mashiach is coming. Mashiach is here, and something very positive, very dramatic happened to move Mashiach closer. But every generation has reason to be optimistic. Our generation, for the first time in history, has a more realistic and more tangible reason for optimism. In the past, the great sages argued that we deserve Mashiach. We did something, the Jewish people did something special, and now we deserve Mashiach. Well, we deserved progress in Mashiach. We didn't deserve the actual arrival. Today, it's not that we deserve Mashiach, which we do, but there's something more than that, a little more tangible than that, because deservedness is very hard to measure. What we have today is a whole world ready for Mashiach, not just Jewish people being nice or doing the right thing. So, since Mashiach has to come to the whole world, the fact that the world is ready is a much greater justification for our optimism than ever before.
Rabbi Friedman, I think I'm not supposed to study this. I don't think, not just me, I don't think any of us are supposed to study this, such an understanding as Erev Rav. I don't even want to be the one who explains what it is. Are we supposed to know what it is? Are we supposed to learn it, or at least know about it? Or is it something that should remain silent and sort of undercover until things happen? Because as far as I understand it, in the teachings of Erev Rav, only Mashiach can repair the world as it is right now with the kind of leadership that we have at the moment. This kind of leadership can't be fixed by common individuals, by humans. There
isn't some kind of a secret cartel who are running the world. And it's always been, since we came out of Egypt, there have always been people who claim to be good or our friends or converts, and they weren't. They had their own agenda. It's not the same group. It's not the same people. In every generation, there are good guys and bad guys. Okay, that we can handle. What's harder to handle is those who pretend to be the good guys and are not. So that's been the case all through our history. And there's no question that today there are good guys and bad guys, and then there are the guys who make believe they're good, but they're really not good. So there's always a mixture. Erev means a mixture. A big mixture. But mixture means pretending to be good but being bad, or they really are half good and half bad. And those are the ones that are hard they're hard to identify. They're hard to condemn because there is some good about them. And it gets confusing. So no, there's no conspiracy. It's just the reality that has been around for a long time.
Did also some digging, because right now, honestly, I don't even know. I mean, the news is everywhere, and it's weird. It's confusing. So I'm kind of going back into history a little bit. And going back into history, actually started to kind of read up on the how the Illuminati was formed and when it was formed, because it seems like again, I don't know what's conspiracy anymore, what's truth, what's news. It's super confusing at this point, so I'm just going in every direction. So as far as I understand it, the Illuminati was formed in, like, the one that we're worried about right now in the year 1776. Now, that kind of made me think that around the same time, actually even a little bit before, we got Alter Rebbe. And usually, Alter Rebbe was born, right? Around what age? I'm not sure. Around the same time, a little earlier, right? Okay, I don't remember the year. So was that the antidote? Because as far as we know in the Jewish history, that before we get something bad, we usually get an antidote even beforehand. Would that be something that we can say that we got? Because it seems like the timing is very, very similar. That's the only thing that jumped at me. And reading upon it is exactly like what everybody is saying right now, that this elite society was born that wanted the world to be amazing right now, right here, the way, and they wanted to rule the world. Is that sort of what we're kind of living through right now in a more developed and more advanced age? You know, before it was literature, it was, you know, it wasn't as spread out because we didn't have the means of the media. But is that what is happening right now? Is that what we're living? That there is some kind of a society that has come together to make its own rules and its own regulations and control the entire world. Rabbi Friedman, I know I'm a little bit off today.
When was the Baal Shem Tov born?
Baal Shem Tov was born at the end of 17th century. 16th century. So it was 1,600 and something, 1,680, I think. I believe. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, so the dates match?
100 years off.
Hmm.
Less than 100.
Baal Shem Tov was born in what year?
I think 1680, if I'm not mistaken.
And he was concealed. He was concealed for 40 years.
Mm.
So when the concealed good was revealed, then the concealed evil had to start exposing itself as well. But I don't think it's the same group. I don't think it's these things don't last that long. So we're all witnessing the exposure of evil. So yes, it's been hiding behind the facade of goodness. Not hiding underground. They're hiding in plain sight. But we didn't identify them. We couldn't get past the camouflage. But now we're seeing it. Now we're seeing it clearly. And they're not trying to hide anymore. So it's it. That's it. That's the showdown. And hopefully that's what is meant by the war of Gog and Magog. The final battle. But an ideological battle. Not a military, not a physical war. We've had plenty of those and it didn't do any good.
Yeah, actually, as far as that is concerned, as far as I understand it, in the 19th century was the first time that Hasidic people thought the war of Gog and Magog was the war of Napoleon versus Russia. Again, my biggest fear right now is to be wrong and to say that this is just another phase and we're going to live through it and then we're going to go back exactly to where we were or even the worst place. I don't know. It's just things are so scary in a sense that the worst thing to be right now is wrong and to say that this is not happening. How can we be sure that it is happening? Just want to be sure, Rabbi Friedman.
It is happening. The question is, when will it finally tip, the tipping point? It's definitely happening. You know that the first Chabad Rebbe supported Russia against France. It was it was almost prophetic because most of the rabbis did not understand. You prefer the Tsar over Napoleon? Napoleon stood for freedom and for liberalism and you support the Tsar over. Now, all these years later, we can appreciate the corrosive and toxic effects of the Renaissance. It starts off sounding good. All people are equal rights, enlightenment. The Enlightenment has created a world in which nobody knows whether they're coming or going. Nobody knows what's right and what's wrong, what's up and what's down. And that leaves us so vulnerable for people who love to take advantage of these things. So, in the name of liberalism, in the name of permissiveness, in the name of equality, people have become dictators. In the name of tolerance, people have become totally intolerant. So, I guess a revolution can be either physical or philosophical. Every revolution only replaces the previous evil with a greater evil. That's what happened in Russia. The revolution brought a greater evil, and the same was true with the revolution in France. It was not as bloody, possibly, but it also replaced one evil with a worse evil. But it spread. It didn't stay just in France. The whole world got caught up in it. Everybody wanted to be French. Everybody wanted to be liberal like Napoleon. But it wasn't real freedom. It was just a destruction of everything sacred, of everything valuable. So it was not a construction, but a destruction of all structure. It looked good for a while, like 200 years. But now it looks terrible.
The whole world looks really, really awful. And people are completely disoriented. Nobody knows what exactly they need to do. And even if before it was a little bit more apparent that we can just, keep being good, it's just getting more and more confusing. It seems like, what now? Realistically, the question I asked in the beginning of of our program today is, what now? What do we do? What do we do in the meantime while everything gets unraveled? How do we protect our minds, protect ourselves, protect our families, protect our communities? How do we not crumble under this? Don't even have a word for it.
Yeah. Well, okay, so let's sum it up this way. Napoleon basically promoted secular humanism. We have no need for divine inspiration. We have no need for divine instruction. We have no need for transcendent experiences. We're the greatest. We are the top human beings. We are the greatest thing in creation. We are the top of the heap, and we are creative, and we're beautiful, and we're moral, and we're high-minded, and we don't need God. That basically is the bottom line. What we're seeing now is the exact opposite. I was just the other day, 2 days ago, I was saying in class something about God, and I referred to God as He. Two of the girls here at the program needed to run out of the room and go back to their bedroom because they had to calm down because I said he, which is, of course, sexist. Of course, if I said she, well, that would be sexist too. So you can't say he or she. To say it is not respectful. Don't call God an it. Anyway, it's an impossible situation. So if you offer an opinion, you offend, you frighten, you intimidate. So what has happened, maybe in the last 40 years, to have an opinion is unacceptable. If you have an opinion, then you're offending somebody. You're either a racist, a sexist, a chauvinist, I don't know. Something is wrong with you if you have an opinion. You're not allowed to have an opinion. And this is on college campuses. So the only way to show approval or disapproval is through sensitivity. Nobody knows what's wrong with being sexist. Nobody knows what's wrong with it. Nobody knows what's wrong with being a racist. I'm not talking about crimes against people. That's always been a crime. But what is wrong with recognizing distinctions between races or between sexes or between... In fact, today I asked the girls, and this was like unavoidable. We were talking about shootings in public schools. Over the years, all the shootings that happened in public schools, and I asked them, those shooters, were they boys or girls? And they said, what's the difference? I said, I'm just asking. What's the fact? Were they boys or girls? Were they half boys and half girls? No, it was all boys. Do girls not have the same frustrations? They go to the same school. So whatever complaints they have against the school, I'm sure the girls have the same complaints as the boys. And yet every time there was a shooting at a school, it was male, not female. And they couldn't get away from, they couldn't dismiss that. In fact, we were joking about it. If a girl comes to school with a gun, everybody is curious. Hey, what's that for? What's going on? A boy comes with a gun, everybody runs. So, of course, there's a difference between the sexes. It's so sad that we have to even discuss this. But the point is, the way the liberal and permissive thinking has developed, you're not allowed to have an opinion. What you are allowed to have is hurt, offended. That idea offends me. You mean you disapprove? It just offends me. So you want to talk about it? No, I can't talk about it. It scares me. It scares you? It scares you that a person has an opinion? So, what is the silver lining? The silver lining is that in a world of truth, we don't have opinions. Right and wrong is not a product of opinions. Right is right and wrong is wrong, with or without our existence. True is true whether we exist or not. So it turns out that the only kind of clarity, the only kind of morality, the only kind of sanity that is possible and available in the world is a transcendent one. A reality bigger than me. So if I'm going to say murder is wrong, it can't be my opinion, because opinions don't count anymore. It's a very real. If somebody would get up today in a crowded room and say murder is wrong, but nobody is offended by the idea of murder, then what makes it wrong? That's today's thinking. I'm not offended, so it's not wrong. If I am offended, then it's wrong. You can't have an opinion, but you also can't decide right and wrong by sentiment, by sensitivity. The only way is a transcendent one. So if I say it's wrong, it's not my opinion. People won't buy it. It's wrong because it has always been wrong, because it was created to be wrong. Murder was created to be avoided, not to be committed. Stealing is wrong because the ability to steal exists to be avoided and condemned, not to be practiced. So it has been wrong since its creation, not since somebody decided that they don't like it or approve of it. That's a much healthier world. So as we get disillusioned, not only with the confusion, but even what we think is our good, healthy opinion, it can no longer be your opinion. It has to be transcendent. It has to be bigger than me and bigger than you and bigger than all of us, so that it is not my sensitivity and it's not my thinking, it's not my philosophy, it's not my religion. It's a transcendent truth, a truth that always was and always will be. Now we've got to adjust to it, raise ourselves to it, get comfortable with it. Then we become transcendent too.
Rabbi Friedman, that's the ultimate point where, of course, we should be, and hopefully we will be there very, very soon. But at the moment, we are in a very, very strange place, and all of us are on slightly different levels. And I have to say that I'm reading right now Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. I don't know. I'm everywhere trying to figure out the world, and it's not, of course, happening because it's impossible to figure out, but at least, gives me a lot of things to think about. And the parallel that I can draw as far as what he wrote about in a small portion of his book is the stages that people went through when they arrived at the concentration camps. That at first it was shocking, and then within less than a week, people were immune to it. People were used to seeing death and torture and all of the horrific things that the concentration camp done with people, and there was an immunity to it. And the parallel that I'm drawing right now is that we're seeing, if a year or two ago we would react to something that we see right now like it's a big deal, like this can't be happening, like this is atrocious, this is beyond human comprehension. Right now I'm like, okay, so this is happening here and that is happening there, and it's kind of like it's not phasing us as much anymore. Yeah, we understand it's wrong, it shouldn't be, but it's but how much can we react painfully to things that we view as wrong things, as bad things? And this is what I'm afraid of, is what is happening to the world. I understand the world is waking up, and we're all in different stages of our awakeness. Some people have started to realize things way earlier, and they just can't handle what is happening anymore, and they're just waiting every day for Mashiach. Then there are other people that are just waking up. Some people are immune. Some people are reacting painfully. What is happening emotionally to humanity, to the world? I mean, this is a very, very strange place to be in general.
Yeah, there is definitely an overload of information. Every evil in the world is right there on your screen. And we really don't need to know so much. There's only so much we can absorb. But if we want to find a real answer, we got to look at what the Rebbe left us with, his legacy. Go out in the street and ask a Jew to put on tefillin. That is such a powerful model for what our response should be. If I get up publicly on a soapbox and I start to scream about all the evils that are going on, I will have absolutely no positive effect on society. It'll just add to the noise. So my opinion will only make things worse, because we're beyond the level, we're beyond the state of opinions. Positive, negative, better, worse, it's gone. No opinion is going to have any effect whatsoever. The question now is, what is actually true with a capital T? Not who's telling the truth. What is true? How do you do that? How do you communicate truth and not opinion? So the Rebbe says, go out in the street, ask a Jewish man to put on tefillin, and don't explain and don't say anything about the world and the negative sides and the positive sides. Just, here, you're Jewish, put on tefillin. If the tefillin are true, if this is what God intended, if this is a godly act, it will speak on its own behalf. Truth will communicate itself in the channels of truth, which is a different channel from opinion or even from knowledge. Because intelligence cannot tell you truth. It can only tell you logic. So how do we get to the truth? Well, it has to speak for itself. So if we expose ourselves to that which is supposed to be the truth, maybe the true string in me, the true note in my soul, will recognize the truth when I see it or feel it or hear it. So if you believe that goodness is true, that godliness is true, that God did in fact create the world with a purpose and with a plan, and that we are here as part of that plan, well, then act on it and see what happens. Taste the truth and see if it tastes like truth.
Rabbi Friedman, where do we get the strength right now? Because it's just the further we go, the harder it gets, because it seems like this is not our fight. And we're not the one who are fighting this war. We're just here. But we can't just be here. We always need to matter, to do something, to, be a part of. Where do we...
To make it our fight.
Okay. How do we do that?
It's God's fight, but God is asking us to make it our fight. Partner with Him. But not by adding your opinion, but by exposing the truth so that everybody can see it. You can't enhance the truth. You can't rationalize it. You can't present it on your authority, because the truth has much more authority than any of us have, even large groups. So what you think is true, show it, do it, present it, and let the world judge. That's what the Rebbe was saying. It doesn't make much sense to stop a Jew who is not observant, not traditional, not committed, doesn't even believe in God, and you're going to ask him to put on tefillin. It's so ridiculous. What do you hope to accomplish? Other than bring ridicule to yourself. And yet, the project has been, without exception, it has been successful. People are inspired. People look forward to putting on the tefillin, and they still don't believe in God. Because there's something about it that sounds or feels true, real, authentic. And you can't enhance that. You can't make that up. You can't You can't rationalize it or break it into bite-sized pieces. Authentic is authentic. It's the thing. It's the whole thing. And the only way to apprehend it, the only way to identify it, is by letting the truth element in you recognize the truth in the world. So try it.
Rabbi Friedman, 100%. I think a lot of people are fully ready to do that. However, it's becoming more and more dangerous to bring the truth to the world. I mean, some of the very recent numbers is that there is a tremendous increase in anti-Semitic content on social media. I mean, the media like TikTok that caters to 16 to 24-year-olds, the 912% of anti-Semitic content on that media alone. Overall media increased in anti-Semitic content by 1,400% this year versus last year. So we're in a danger zone. I mean, do we keep on risking it?
We have always been living in the danger zone. It is not new. And these statistics are so misleading. They're so artificial. It goes up, it goes down. It's a constant. It's a constant, and it always has been. Now, what are we going to do about it? Keep track? Count how many incidents? We have to be proactive. If there's a lot of darkness and a lot of negativity in the world, we have to add more positivity. But the ultimate positivity, and that is the true positivity. So the more we teach, the more we share, the more we demonstrate what is good and holy and godly, the better the world will become, and anti-Semitism will fade out. Finally.
I'm still questioning whether the world is ready already. I mean, again, judging by, let's say, how many views pruning tomatoes get on YouTube, which is like close to 8 million views or something like that in a matter of a month, versus some deep, important lectures from phenomenal rabbis who are speaking the truth, and we get that in low thousands views. So my question is, if we look at the world through, what people are doing, what they're searching for, what their interests are, and what they're willing to comprehend at this point, is the world ready?
You've heard of Jordan Peterson?
Sure.
A lot of people hate him.
I don't think too many understand him.
But those who hate him and those who criticize him keep marveling at his popularity. I think they're frightened by it. Millions of his books sold, millions of copies. Millions of people listen to him. Millions, and it's phenomenal. And what is his message, bottom line? His bottom line message is, there better be more to life than this. He doesn't have the final answers. But he knows, no, there's got to be something more than this. So when he speaks to these, debates, these atheists or secularists, and they have this attitude, hey, we don't need God, we're doing fine. He said, well, are you crazy? We're doing fine? What is wrong with you? So he doesn't yet have the answer, but he is certainly ready, and all his listeners, all his fans, all his readers They seem to share that same awareness. There's got to be more than this. We're not accepting the idea that evolution brought us into existence, and evolution will eventually remove us from existence, and who cares? No. Not acceptable. So, even before we get to the answer, the way the question is being asked is in itself a great moral improvement.
There's got to be more than this, and it has to be now, Rabbi Friedman. Thank you so much. Amazing. It's getting a little bit harder, and your presence and your wisdom and the light that you bring in here to our radio every week and to everybody else on daily basis is priceless and very, very needed. So thank you so much for being with us and setting us straight, or a little bit straighter, at least.
Yeah, one of the things that he says is the first rule in life is stand up straight. Peterson. Stand up straight and take a little responsibility for what's going on. It's not bad.
No, it's actually pretty right on. Thank you so much, Rabbi Friedman. Really appreciate your weekly hour with us. It's absolutely priceless and very, very needed. Thank you so much.
And it's a pleasure.
Thank you.